I remember the sound of crystal glasses chiming together, a sharp little chorus that cut through the noise of the restaurant. Daniel's 30th birthday had drawn quite a crowd. His parents, cousins, co-workers, and a smattering of friends filled the long table draped in white linen. I sat beside him, my hand resting on a folded red envelope I had brought from home, the one holding insurance forms and a renewal notice for the lease on the apartment we shared. Then his mother, poised with a flute of champagne, leaned forward with that smile she reserved for an audience. She tapped her glass and raised her voice. "We will see," she said, her eyes locked on me, "if you are worth half of Daniel's $1 million trust fund." Laughter rippled through the room. Even the waiter smirked as he poured wine at the far end of the table. I felt my jaw tighten. The red envelope slid a little beneath my palm as if it wanted to leap up and shout for me. I pressed it down, willing myself to stay still. I should have been used to this by now. After 4 years together, insults had turned into background music at family gatherings. But that line, that public jab about my worth and his money, cut sharper than the rest. For a moment, I imagined myself standing up announcing everything I carried alone: mortgage payments, insurance policies, the car loan in my name, and watching their laughter fade into silence. Instead, I sat there quietly while Daniel chuckled along with the others. He slipped his arm behind my chair, but it felt more like a claim than a comfort. There is a strange calm that settles over you in moments of humiliation. The restaurant clattered with silverware, the band near the bar struck up a tune, and yet I heard almost nothing. I was suspended weightless in a bubble of quiet. Loneliness can be deafening, even in a crowded room. Then came the second layer, pretending. I lifted my own glass, forced a smile, and let the bubbles fizz against my lips. Everyone else laughed too loudly, their eyes sliding past me as though I were a placeholder in Daniel's story. In that moment, I was not a partner. I was a spectator. That was the fracture line. They thought I would keep absorbing the jokes, keep nodding along, keep being grateful for scraps of approval. They had no idea that the red envelope under my palm was more than paperwork. It was the map of every benefit Daniel had been drawing from me quietly month after month. I will explain that part in a moment. But first, I need to pause here and ask you something. Tell me where you are watching from, and do not forget to subscribe. Families and money always explode, and you will want to see how this one burns. I tightened my grip on that envelope again. The party roared on, but my thoughts had already stepped out the door, into a colder, sharper world where actions mattered more than words. What none of them knew was that by the next morning the balance of power would shift. The woman they dismissed at the table was already calculating. The morning after that birthday dinner, sunlight spilled through the blinds of our apartment. I brewed coffee, hoping the routine would quiet my thoughts. The red envelope from the night before still sat on the counter. I had not opened it again. I did not need to. I already knew every line of those papers by heart. At 7:30, my phone buzzed. Daniel's name lit the screen. I expected some half-hearted apology for his mother's words, or at least a clumsy attempt at humor to smooth things over. Instead, it was a message that hollowed me out. "I need a month it read to decide if you are really the one. Do not contact me during this time." That was it. No greeting, no explanation. Just a verdict written as if I were on trial. 4 years together, 8 months engaged, and he needed a month to evaluate whether I was worth it. I stared at the text for a long moment, then placed the phone face down beside my coffee. My first instinct was rage. The second was grief. But what finally settled was something steadier clarity. If he wanted a month to evaluate, I would give him that month, though not in the way he expected. He still lived under my roof. The lease was in my name. He only contributed a token sum each month, barely enough to cover utilities. The car he drove bore my registration. His health insurance came through my employer's plan. Even his gym membership ran through my corporate account. For years, I had carried the weight, convincing myself that love meant partnership, that support now would bloom into gratitude later. But gratitude had never come, and after that text, it never would. I opened my laptop and pulled up the spreadsheet I had built quietly over time. Rows of expenses, columns of payments. His name appeared in fewer cells than I cared to admit. Out of 24 car payments, I had covered nearly half. The credit card where he was an authorized user told a similar story. Restaurant bills, gadget purchases, even his share of streaming services, more often than not, I paid. Seeing it laid out like that stripped away the illusions. He was not evaluating whether I was worth it. He was calculating how much longer he could float on my contributions before he had to stand on his own. That night, he packed a small bag and left a note on the kitchen table. Staying at Ben's for a bit. Please respect my need for space. The handwriting was hurried, almost guilty. I poured myself a glass of wine and read it twice. Then I tucked the note under the same red envelope and placed both in a drawer. My apartment felt quieter than usual, but not empty. There was a peace to it, like air clearing after a storm. At dawn, the peace fractured. My phone vibrated endlessly, missed calls, messages tumbling in one after another. I ignored them until the numbers grew absurd. 17 missed calls, over 40 texts. Card declined at the coffee shop, one message read. What is going on? Another demanded. This is not funny. I cannot get gas. Then bargaining, please, I need to get to work. Can we talk? I did not mean it like that. I sipped my coffee and let the phone buzz against the table. He had asked for silence, and silence he would have. Around 9, an unfamiliar number rang. Against my better judgment, I answered. A male voice, sharp with anger, came through. This is Damon Daniels' brother. What the hell did you do? He is stranded at a gas station crying. His card will not work. I did not do anything, I replied evenly. Daniel asked for a month to evaluate our relationship. I am respecting his request. By cutting him off, that is financial abuse. I laugh not kindly. I removed him as an authorized user from my credit card. He has a job. Adults live with their own money. He cannot live the lifestyle he is used to without you, Damon shot back. Exactly, I said, and hung up. By noon, the storm had spread. His mother called my office, demanding explanations. I had my assistant inform her I was in meetings all day. His cousins flooded my phone with messages about loyalty, about love, about how I was ruining his life. None of them mentioned how he had chosen to put me on trial. None of them asked how it felt to be laughed at in a crowded restaurant. They saw his tears at a gas station. They did not see the years of quiet imbalance that led there. But what they did not know was that this was only the beginning. The week unfolded like a play, each act marked by another unraveling thread of Daniel's comfort. I said nothing to him directly. I had promised silence, and silence became my weapon. Yet in the quiet, I worked with precision. First came the apartment. 3 years ago, I had bought it under my own name, 2 bedrooms, a view of the river, and a mortgage I carried alone. Daniel had contributed $400 each month, not even enough to cover utilities. When I called the property manager to ask about removing a long-term guest who was not on the lease, his answer was simple: 30 days notice. I smiled at the irony. Daniel wanted 30 days of space. He would have it, though, not in the way he imagined. Next was the insurance. During open enrollment at work, I removed him from my plan. It would take effect the following week. His boutique job offered no benefits, but that was no longer my concern. Partners share. Evaluators do not. The car followed. 2 years earlier, when his old sedan died on the highway, I had co-signed a loan for a newer vehicle. The title bore my name. The payments were spotty at best. I did not repossess it immediately, but I documented everything for my attorney. The spreadsheet grew each line another quiet reminder of how deeply he had leaned on me. By the second morning, his messages shifted from anger to desperation. My card got declined at lunch in front of everyone. Do you hate me this much? Please, can we just talk? Each vibration of my phone was a testament to how quickly the scaffolding of his life crumbled without me holding it up. At work, I overheard my assistant chuckling at her computer. There's a video going around, she said, glancing at me. Guy tried to pay for a $3,000 team lunch card, declined. Everyone's sharing it. He did not ask for details. I already knew. That evening, I logged into our shared streaming service and changed the password. It was petty perhaps, but symbolic. Access cut benefit ended. The same with the gym membership, the phone plan, the little conveniences he had never questioned. On the third day, I discovered a message on social media forwarded by a mutual friend. It was a screenshot from Daniel's group chat, meant for his buddies, not for me. In it, he had written months ago, "She's only my stepping stone. Once I marry her, I'm set for life." The words hit harder than any insult his family had thrown my way. Not because I doubted his intentions deep down, I had sensed them all along, but because here they were in his own handwriting, stripped of charm, stripped of pretense. I saved the image in a private folder, evidence should I ever need it. By now, his family was relentless. His mother left voicemails heavy with accusation. You cannot just cut him off like that. He is your fiancé. His cousin wrote an email warning me that love does not survive cruelty. Even his sister chimed in on social media, posting vague comments about betrayal and greed. But what they did not understand was that I was not acting from spite. I was simply honoring his request. He wanted to evaluate me. I removed every benefit of being with me, so his evaluation could be pure. On the fourth day, I walked past our dining table, where his note still sat under the red envelope. I pulled it out, read his hurried scrawl once more, then slid it back. The apartment was cleaner now, lighter, without his clutter. The silence once heavy had become companionable. I knew the storm outside was only growing. His humiliation at work had gone viral. His messages were turning frantic. His family was circling like hawks. But inside these walls, I felt calm. I was no longer begging to be seen, no longer playing the role of silent supporter. What they had not realized yet was that this silence was only the beginning. By the end of that first week, the storm that had started with one smug text had turned into a full-blown spectacle. Daniel had insisted on his month of space, but space has a way of exposing who carries the weight. Without me propping up his life, he collapsed quickly, and everyone could see it. The breaking point came on a Friday afternoon. I was at my desk reviewing reports when my phone lit up with a stream of notifications. A colleague leaned over, eyes wide. "Have you seen this? It's all over TikTok." I opened the clip, and there he was, Daniel standing red-faced at a sleek restaurant with half a dozen coworkers around him. He had tried to cover a company lunch nearly $3,000 with the card I had revoked. The waiter's polite shake of the head, the second and third swipes that failed, and finally his muttered curse, all of it caught on camera by someone at the next table. The caption read, "Evaluator without benefits." The comments poured in by the thousands. People laughed at his arrogance, at his helplessness. Strangers who knew nothing of us dissected his downfall in real time. By evening, my phone would not stop buzzing. 43 missed messages, 17 calls. His tone shifted with every attempt. "This isn't funny. Baby, please just answer. You're ruining my life." I left the phone face down on the counter. Silence was still my answer. The next morning, the wider family descended. His mother, Lorraine, called my office line again. This time I picked up. "You've gone too far," she said, her voice trembling with indignation. "Daniel is humiliated. He cannot even buy gas. Cutting him off like this is abuse." "Abuse," I repeated, keeping my tone calm. "He asked for a month apart. Partners share benefits. Evaluators do not. He needs stability, Elena. You know he can't live without the lifestyle you've created." "That's the point," I replied, and ended the call. Within hours, more voices joined the chorus. His cousin left me a voicemail dripping with judgment. "You don't humiliate family." His sister posted on social media about cold-hearted partners who abandon men in need. Even his uncle sent an email full of Bible verses about forgiveness. But not one of them mentioned the text that started it all, or the laughter in the restaurant, or the years I had quietly paid and covered and smoothed over. On Sunday, the confrontation turned physical. Daniel's brother Damon showed up at my building, buzzing the intercom repeatedly. Against my better judgment, I answered. "You can't just cut him out like this," he barked. "He's falling apart." "He asked for a month to decide if I'm worth it," I said. "That means we're not together right now. If we're not together, why would he still have access to my money, my apartment, my insurance?" "That's cruel," Damon shot back. "You're supposed to support each other." I almost laughed. Support is for partners. He demoted me to a trial run. Evaluators don't get partner benefits. There was a long pause. Then he muttered a curse and hung up. By that night, the video of Daniel's card decline had reached over 1 million views. The hashtag number evaluator trended for hours. Memes sprouted, mocking him with screenshots and captions. At his company, whispers turned to meetings. A friend in his department messaged me privately. "They're considering letting him go. Too much bad press." I should have felt guilty, perhaps. Instead, I felt a calm clarity. For years, I had been invisible, my efforts unnoticed, my sacrifices taken for granted. Now the imbalance was exposed for everyone to see. The silence I had chosen was louder than any argument. What none of them realized yet was that this was only the first public crack. The next one would shatter the whole facade. The week after the video broke, I received an invitation, or perhaps more of a summons. Daniel's parents wanted a family conversation. They framed it as an attempt at reconciliation, but the tone of Lorraine's message told me otherwise. She expected me to appear to apologize to restore her son's dignity with my resources. I agreed to attend not out of guilt but curiosity. Sometimes it is better to see the theater play out in person. Their home was a sprawling colonial in the suburbs, all polished wood floors and framed portraits. I arrived with a folder under my arm, not the red envelope this time, but a thicker binder letters from my attorney, copies of leases, proof of ownership. Evidence, though, I did not plan to reveal it yet. The living room was staged like a courtroom. Daniel sat on the couch, eyes downcast his mother, perched beside him like a defense lawyer, and his father in the armchair across hands folded as judge. Aunts, uncles, and cousins filled the remaining chairs murmuring until Lorraine raised her voice. Elena, she began using the same tone she had at that birthday toast. We are all here because family matters, and family does not abandon one of its own. Daniel has been embarrassed enough. You will reinstate his cards, his coverage, and his place in your apartment. I waited a beat before responding. He asked for a month apart. I honored that request. That was a mistake, she snapped. He was upset. You should have known better. Daniel finally looked up, his eyes glassy. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I just needed space. You know I love you. The room grew thick with expectation. They wanted me to fold, to nod, and agree to restore the order where I carried the weight, and he basked in comfort. Instead, I opened my folder and laid it on the coffee table. I did not speak yet. I let the weight of the gesture sit there. That was when one of the cousins, too eager to wound, pulled out a phone. Before you act like a victim, maybe explain this. He turned the screen toward me. It was the leaked message from Daniel's group chat, the one I had already saved. She's only my stepping stone. Once I marry her, I'm set for life. The room gasped, but Daniel stammered quickly. That was a joke. You know how guys talk. It didn't mean anything. I kept my voice steady. Words have weight, Daniel, especially when they come from your own hand. Lorraine cut in, her voice trembling now with fury. This is still your responsibility, Elena. You are older, you are more stable. You cannot just throw him to the wolves. I leaned forward. I didn't throw him anywhere. He built his own pedestal, and now it is crumbling. The murmurs turned into a low rumble of arguments. Some sided with me quietly. Others wagged fingers, demanding sacrifice. The word selfish floated more than once. In the middle of the noise, I felt a surprising calm. For years, I had swallowed words, let them pile up in my throat until they choked me. Now I had nothing to hide, nothing to protect. I tapped the folder once with my finger. You asked for a conversation. You will have it. But understand this actions have consequences. I'll show you exactly what that means. I let the sentence hang, a promise more than a threat. They thought the scandal was bad already. They hadn't seen the legal strike waiting just beyond this room. The following week, the confrontation came to its inevitable peak. Daniel's family had tried every tactic, pleading, shaming, even thinly veiled threats. None of it changed my course. I had remained quiet through their noise, but I had not been idle. My attorney and I had been working in parallel, gathering every document, every receipt, every contract that spelled out the truth. On a gray Thursday evening, I returned to their home for what they called a final attempt. They imagined it would be my surrender. Instead, it became their reckoning. The living room was crowded again, though this time even more faces filled the chairs. Someone had baked a pie as if sugar could sweeten a trial. Daniel looked worn, dark circles under his eyes. His father cleared his throat and began. We expect resolution tonight. Our son has suffered enough humiliation. Lorraine added quickly, You will restore him to the apartment, reinstate the benefits, and this family will move forward. I placed the heavy folder on the table once more, only now it bulged with notarized pages. I opened it slowly, sliding one document forward, the apartment, lease, my name printed cleanly above the owner's signature. This apartment is mine, I said. Daniel has never been a tenant. He was a guest. His right to stay ended the moment he chose to step away. Murmurs rippled through the room. I placed the next paper, the insurance plan summary, with his name struck out effective immediately. Coverage ended. He has full capacity to apply through his own employer. Then the car registration title showing my name alone. The bank statement proving payments made from my account. Finally, a letter from my attorney confirming removal of Daniel as an authorized user on my credit cards. Each document landed like a hammer blow. Lorraine's voice cracked. You came here to shame him. No, I said softly. I came here to show the truth. For years, you praised his independence while he leaned on me for everything. You laughed when your son's worth was measured in money. Now the ledger is balanced. Daniel shifted as though the weight of the papers physically pressed on his chest. His face flushed. He stood suddenly, voice breaking. I made a mistake. Okay, I shouldn't have said I needed a month. I just felt. You felt entitled. I cut in. Entitled to test me while enjoying every benefit. Evaluators don't get partner privileges. The room fell silent. Even the cousins who had snickered before now avoided his gaze. Then, almost predictably, Daniel sank to his knees on the carpet. Please, he whispered, I'll fix it. Don't do this. We can move past it. But there was nothing left to salvage. The document spoke louder than his words. I gathered the folder, sliding the pages neatly back inside. This is not cruelty. This is consequence. As I left the house, I caught sight of Lorraine's face, pale, stunned, stripped of the triumph she had expected. Behind her, Daniel crumpled shoulders, shaking the image of a man unmasked. I walked into the cold evening air with a steadiness I had not felt in years. The legal strike had been delivered. There would be fallout, of course, and it would not be small. Because the world outside this family drama was already watching, and the scandal had only begun. It is one thing to face whispers inside a living room. It is another to watch your private unraveling become public entertainment. Within days of that meeting, Daniel's humiliation had spread far beyond family circles. The video of his declined card at the company lunch had already gone viral, but now new pieces began surfacing: screenshots, emails, even careless texts he had sent months earlier. Someone from his office leaked a thread where he had bragged about living rent-free, about having it made because his fiancé covered everything. Another post showed him mocking coworkers who still drove old cars, even though the sleek sedan he flaunted bore my name on the title. Each revelation added fuel to the fire. The internet does not forgive arrogance exposed. Memes flooded in. His face was plastered with captions like evaluator without benefits and trust fund and training wheels. Within a week, the hashtag number evaluator had millions of views. The fallout at his job came quickly. His manager called him into a meeting citing concerns about professional reputation and company image. The very next morning, an announcement appeared. Daniel was no longer with the firm. No details, just absence. He texted me that afternoon. They let me go. This is your fault. I read it once, then set the phone aside. Silence still served me best. Meanwhile, my own inbox overflowed with messages from strangers. Some offered sympathy, some asked for details, some simply shared their own stories of betrayal and financial imbalance. It was strange seeing my private life refracted through so many voices. But I did not answer. I had no need to defend myself to the crowd. What struck me most were the quiet messages from people who had known us both. An old college friend of his wrote, I always wondered how he afforded that lifestyle. Now it makes sense. You deserve better. Another from one of his coworkers, thank you for cutting him off. He treated everyone like they were beneath him. The world was piecing together a portrait I had lived with silently for years. Now they all saw what I had carried. Daniel, however, could not bear the glare. He tried to fight back online, posting a long note about betrayal, about being left in his time of need. But the comments shredded him. Screenshots contradicted his every claim. The internet is merciless with hypocrisy. I saw one reply that summed it up. You can't call it betrayal when you asked for a trial run. You failed your own test. The pressure mounted until even his own family began to fracture. Some defended him, clinging to denial. Others admitted quietly that the evidence was too heavy to ignore. His sister, once so vocal online, deleted her posts and went silent. His father, who had barely spoken during our confrontations, called me late one night. I don't agree with how you handled it, he said slowly, but I see now how much you carried. I should have noticed sooner. It was the closest thing to an apology I would ever get from that side of the family. Through it all, I remained still. I did not grant interviews, I did not post explanations. I walked my quiet routine's coffee in the morning, work during the day, evening walks along the river. The storm raged outside, but inside calm held steady. Because this was no longer about Daniel and me alone. It had become a cautionary tale, one that strangers repeated, one that families debated at dinner tables. And yet there was one final step left. Viral chaos may strip away illusions, but closure is something only I could choose. By the time autumn settled in, the noise had quieted. Viral storms never last forever. New scandals replaced old ones, and strangers on the internet moved on to other targets. But for Daniel, the damage lingered. His job was gone, his reputation tattered, and even his own relatives had grown tired of defending him. I saw him one last time, though not by my choice. He showed up outside my apartment on a rainy evening, thinner than I remembered, clutching an umbrella that dripped steadily onto the pavement. He did not shout or posture this time. He simply looked at me with tired eyes and said, "Can we talk?" I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. The rain tapped against the hood of my coat. He took a shaky breath. "I ruined everything," he admitted. "I let pride get in the way. I should have valued you. I should have—" I raised a hand, stopping him. "You asked for a month to evaluate me. What you learned in that month wasn't about me at all. It was about you." His shoulders sagged. "Can't we start over?" I shook my head slowly. "No. Some mistakes can be forgiven. Others become part of who you are. I won't carry that weight anymore." He closed his eyes, and for a moment I almost pitied him. But pity isn't love, pity isn't trust, and pity doesn't rebuild what arrogance has burned down. Inside, my apartment felt warmer than ever. I poured tea, settled by the window, and watched the city lights flicker on. Life, I realized, had always been waiting for me once I set down the burden of someone else's illusions. In the quiet, a thought rose like a steady truth: silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer, the firmest line, the clearest boundary. Weeks passed. I redecorated, replacing the dining table, where his notes. Once Saturday, I traveled for the first time in years, a simple weekend trip to the coast. I spent freely but wisely, my own money, my own choices, unshadowed by anyone's entitlement. Friends asked if I regretted the way things ended. I told them the truth. No, because it wasn't just an ending. It was a beginning. And now, if you've listened this far, I want to ask you something. Do you think I made the right choice by letting silence speak louder than words? If you agree, comment right. If you think there's another way I could have taken revenge, share your idea below. Because family, love, and money, they always collide. And when they do, someone must decide whether to stay invisible or to step into the light. I chose the light.